yes, even when I was a child, I could become so absorbed in what I was reading and the rest of the world was gone. And it is a really wonderful feeling.
Welcome to Midland Money Mindset, your weekly dose of inspiration and insights to ensure you enjoy each step of your journey. Whether you're saving for the future, planning your next big adventure, or simply looking to add more joy to your life, you've come to the right place. Now, let's dive in.
I'm Larry Sprung, your host for the Midland Money Mindset and founder and wealth advisor of Midland Financial. Today's guest is Kristen Proby, New York Times, USA Today, and Wall Street Journal best-selling author. Kristen Proby is a best-selling author of over 70 published titles. She debuted in 2012, captivating fans with spicy contemporary romance about families and friends with plenty of swoony love. She also writes paranormal romance and suggests you keep the lights on while reading them. When not under deadline, Kristen enjoys spending time with her husband and their fur babies, riding her bike, relaxing with embroidery, trying her hand at painting, and especially enjoying her beautiful home in the mountains of Montana. Listen in for some great takeaways about Kristen's journey as an author and an entrepreneur. Well, I am super excited for today's conversation. We have Kristen Proby, who is not only a New York Times, USA Today, but also a Wall Street Journal best-selling author. So as we talk about in hockey world, it's the hat trick of bestsellers. Welcome to the show, Kristen.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. I love it.
I might have hockey on the mind because I did record with a hockey guest earlier today, but welcome to the show. What I want to do is, I always find it fascinating, the journey that somebody has in ending up in doing what they do and where they are today. So, perhaps you could just give our listeners a little background about who you are and what brought you to the point of being a best-selling author, and then we'll spend a lot of time on what you're doing today as an author.
Sure. So I'm originally from Montana, a tiny little ski town here in Montana, born and raised. And I've always been a writer since I was young. I should say I've always been a storyteller, as my parents, I'm sure, would tell you. And so fiction has always been interesting to me. And I started reading romance novels when I was in high school, probably to my mother's chagrin. And creative writing became something I really loved in high school. And in my early 20s, I decided to start trying to write romance. They were horrible in the beginning. And it just took a lot of years of honing that craft and learning what it really is to craft a story. And in 2012, I published my first novel. And we've been going ever since. Gangbusters.
Amazing. So this was in your DNA. This is really the path that you really kind of went out on, started on, and really never looked back from what it sounds like.
Well, writing was always a hobby for me for a long time. I worked in the medical field for about 15 years. And, life happens in between, right? There's weddings and things moving. But writing was always the constant for me. And it was always a goal that I would be published. And I submitted to agents and editors for many years, and they all said, no, thank you, which was fair. It probably wasn't that great at the time. In 2012, I have a cousin who, speaking of DNA, I have a cousin who actually published. He self-published on Amazon. And I said, wait a second, how did you do that? And he was nice enough to show me how to do it. So I wrote my first book, Come Away With Me. And my whole goal was really anybody other than my mother to read what I wrote. And it's since been downloaded 2 million times. So I think that has,
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So it sounds like, where did the inspiration come from? Because, it sounds like it's something that you had been interested in from a very young age. But, was there something in your life that really led you down this path that you said, hey, I really want to be a writer? And I guess more specifically, was it just what you read that led you down the romance genre, or were there other things at work there?
I think it really was what I was reading. I truly enjoy reading romance. It's what I read for fun. Nora Roberts is my favorite author, and I just really admire her career for sure. Uh, so I don't know that it was any one person or any one inspiration other than I just knew this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
So you found what you loved and you did it, you refined it, and you stuck with it. It sounds like.
I was really stubborn. Yeah.
Well, it sounds you sound like an entrepreneur to me. That's what you sound like. Very not too dissimilar from kind of the entrepreneurial path or journey, really.
It truly is. This is a business. I'm the CEO of a business, of a company, and I probably spend more of my day with administrative work and running a business and feeling inspired by how we're going to do even better this year than last year. I do that more than I actually probably put in writing.
Well, it's a business. So let's talk about your career a little bit. You started your writing career with what was supposed to be a standalone that ended up turning into an 8-book series that, from my understanding, really, transformed your career. The With Me in Seattle series garnered a real huge fan base. But you recently released a new series, The Wild of Montana, going back to probably your roots. What advice do you have for other authors who might be hesitant about taking something that's been, a proven winner of interest and garner a lot of attention, and going to a new place with a new storyline, if you will?
It can be scary, but I also think that we start to get stagnant when we write something for too long. And so With Me in Seattle, yes, the original series is 9 books or 8 books, but the actual series itself is 19 books. And after a while, readers start to say, wait a second, that's too many books. It's too daunting for me to go back and read 19 books to figure out what's happening, now, even though they do all stand alone. So I was actually really excited as an artist, but also as a reader to say, wait, we need to start something new that isn't connected to what I'm famous for. And I use the term famous very loosely, but it was exciting for me. And actually it wasn't very scary for me because I was just ready to move on to a whole new family in a whole new setting. So
And I guess
just do it.
has that been that's been a success for you?
It has. The new series is doing very well. Yeah. Better than
I guess going back to your CEO role, I would assume it's probably very similar to looking at launching a new product or a new product line or a product offering. You have to do kind of an assessment if the marketplace would be there. Obviously, you have the creative juices to do that. And then the readers are going to be your best guess or best indication of whether it's a success or not. If it has the, success of some of those previous series or does even better than those, right?
I would agree. Actually, we did almost a year of research to see where should my next series be set? What are readers buying? What are they enjoying? And that's definitely a huge part of my job is paying attention to the market. And so we did that for a long time. And then I spent about 6 months, not just writing that first book, but also deciding how are we going to market this book? What are we going to do differently for this series than what we've done before to make it a success? And thankfully it worked.
I would say it's probably attributed to, doing that upfront research, because I think many times business owners, whether it be an author releasing a series or, like we said, releasing a new product, people have a tendency to just release it, if you build it, they will come kind of mentality. And a lot of times that doesn't work. So I would attribute it to probably a lot of great research on the front end to knowing who your readers are and what they wanted and kind of filling that void for them.
Yeah, thank you. I agree.
So your books often feature a very, a strong female character or characters. What draws you to writing about these kind of characters? And are there, real life experiences that you've had that kind of inspire or influence these characters as a result?
I love writing about strong women because I want to write about women I would want to be friends with. I want to write, and because I spend a lot of time with these people, I want to write about women who I respect and I would want in my life if they were real. So that's the driving force behind that. I like them. I enjoy spending time with them.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because I think that gets lost on a lot of people, what you just said, right? And, you kind of glanced or glossed over it in terms of, I spend a lot of time with these people. And I don't think, unless you're a writer in your capacity, or even maybe a little bit lower level, understanding what that means exactly, right? Can you share with our listeners kind of what that means to you, and what time is spent? Because I think that often gets overlooked.
Sure. So when I'm writing a book, I spend several months with these people, but not just during the few hours a day that I get to sit down and write about them. They're talking to me constantly. I have scene ideas that come into my head while I'm having dinner, or if I'm out to my niece's choir concert, all of a sudden I hear a song and I think, oh, that would be great in this scene in the book that's coming up. They live with me 24/7 for while I'm working on that project. And they certainly have, it makes me sound a little mentally ill, but I'm really, it's fine. It's done well for me. They are just with me all the time. And it's certainly not a 9-to-5 job. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the art, the artistic process, right? I mean, you want to develop this thing and you really want to put your all. Was this something that you felt very similarly growing up when you were on the other side of the book, meaning you were reading? Did those stories really take to life with you, and that's really why that's resonated with you over this period of time?
I think so. I think it's definitely something that is almost an addiction for me. Even now, I read other people's work all the time, and I will voraciously consume it. Like, I want to read it until I get to the end of it. And I read quite quickly. And so, yes, even when I was a child, I could become so absorbed in what I was reading and the rest of the world was gone. And it is a really wonderful feeling. Yeah.
So for you, if the person you like to read, I think you said Nora Roberts earlier, right?
Yeah.
If she had a 19 book plus series, that wouldn't be a deterrent for you, it sounds like.
I would blow through them.
That's funny. So you said you started as a self-published author, right? And then I believe you ended up signing at some point with a traditional publisher, and now you're self-publishing again,
Yeah.
right? For those that might be thinking of, going down this route and think that they have a gift of writing and storytelling like what have been the challenges and rewards of each publishing route? Because I think this is something that gets debated and talked about very often in terms of going the traditional publishing route versus self-publishing. And you've had the experience of kind of being involved in both of those, if you will.
Yes, they're very different. I would say with self-publishing, you just know your book's going to get published, and you have complete control over when it's going to be published and everything that goes into that, from a cover to editing to marketing and everything else. Traditional publishing is great in that your books are likely to be in a bookstore, which in self-publishing, that's not as common. And you have a lot of help as far as you don't have to pay for your own, you don't have to make the investment up front for cover, editing, all the other things I mentioned. So in self-publishing, that is all on the author from the get. I can be sometimes 5 figures into an investment on a book before it ever is published. Whereas if you're publishing with a traditional house, hopefully you get an advance up front and you have no out-of-pocket expense. That's the biggest difference for me. But I really love the control. I am that entrepreneur. So I like the control, and I like having a say in every piece of the puzzle. But I also have to say, I learned so much, and I was traditionally published fairly early in my career. So I self-published in 2012, but by mid 2013, I had a contract with Simon and Schuster, and they published my first book with them in 2014. So it happened very quickly, and I feel like it was a gift to me that I learned from them so much so early, so that now later in my career, I have that foundation of knowledge.
Right. And I mean, is the big thing that you're giving up with regard to the traditional publishing route, the that control piece in terms of, marketing, where it's going to be marketed? Are there other specific things that listeners should be aware of that they may not know because you only know what you know in terms of what's being given up in that process versus self-publishing?
Sure. I mean, sometimes it can take years for a book to be published traditionally. So I may finish a book this year, but if I sell it to a publisher, it could take 2 or 3 years before it ever hits a shelf. Which then means that in 2 or 3 years, I have to try to market that book. And I don't remember what it's about because I've since written other books in the meantime. And
Right.
as a creative person, that can be rough. Um, I think that's one of the biggest challenges, honestly, is that you have no control over any kind of timeline. Also, they will assign editors to you, and sometimes that editor doesn't even read romance novels. So you don't have a say in who edits the book. And the good thing is, though, every editor that I had in New York, whether they loved romance or not, they all said, "This is your book, though. You can veto anything that I say here. It's your book at the end of the day. But also, you need to revise all of this for us to publish."
Right.
So, yeah, it's definitely a job.
Just to dovetail what you were just saying, if they say you need to revise all of this, whatever this is, basically you're contractually obligated to do that, right? It's not something you can at that point say, hey, I don't want to do it. I think it's structurally and, you know, formatted, et cetera, and content is spot on. I don't really feel that these changes, you're kind of losing control over that creativity, over that portion as well, right? To some degree.
You absolutely do, because you're contractually, they bought that, they own it. You no
Right.
longer own that story. So they own it. They get to tell you how to write it.
Wow. How have you seen, the industry, your profession, has gone through, I would say, a lot of change, in your view, how have you seen the industry evolve since you began writing back in 2012?
It's been a massive change. Honestly, it's so different now than it used to be. And by that, I mean, when I published in 2012, there wasn't a lot of self-published authors. I would say less than 50 of us in the romance genre were self-publishing and successful at it. And now, I mean, hundreds of books are released every week on Amazon. So it's grown hugely with just authors who are publishing. They're self-publishing, which is amazing. The other thing is Kindle has introduced Kindle Unlimited. That was born a few years ago, and that's a very different take on how consumers take in their books. So the way that we're paid is completely different now. Readers have changed. Some of the new readers that are finding me were children when I first started writing. So now I'm having to decide, how do I market to young 20-somethings and still make my books attractive to women who are in their 40s and 50s who have been with me this whole time. It's been an interesting couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's focus in a little bit on that change in compensation for a minute, because you touched on it, but I don't think the average person really understands what it means, right? You talked about Kindle Unlimited. You talked about the way you're compensated on that. So, I mean, traditionally, if a book's being sold by Amazon, for example, I, as the consumer, I go buy the book. essentially whatever that price point is. I would imagine a good portion of that's going to you, a portion's going to Amazon for publishing it and hosting on the platform. Kindle Unlimited is a completely different beast, so to speak. And can you explain how that works with regard to your compensation as an author? Because I think our listeners would find that quite interesting.
Sure. So I'm going to back it up to if you just buy the book. So if a book is priced at $2.99 for an ebook, you purchase it, 70% of that goes to the author, and Amazon keeps 30% for all the things that you mentioned. If you have a Kindle Unlimited subscription and that same book is offered in KU and you download it that way to read it, the author gets paid by how many page reads are read for that book. Amazon pays 0.004 cents per page that is read. So on a $2.99 book, my math is going to be a little weird. I don't do math really well. But if I'm making $2 for my $2.99 book, if you just purchase it, I want to say it's something like you only make, it's roughly $1.50 if you just read it in Kindle Unlimited. So for a long time, I was resistant to going into Kindle Unlimited because I had quite a following still on Apple and Barnes & Noble. Oh, and that's something I forgot to add. If you have your book in Kindle Unlimited, it is exclusive to Amazon. You cannot publish it on any other platform. So for 10 years, I cultivated readers on those other platforms. But Amazon is a force. And I think we're also in an age of readers want to consume things very quickly. And they love, especially young readers, they love a subscription. Whether it's Netflix or Hulu or Kindle Unlimited, I want to pay one price a month and I want to consume everything that I can for that one price every month. And I find for my genre, younger readers especially they subscribe to Kindle Unlimited. So finding those younger readers on the other platforms was becoming harder and harder for me. And it just made sense for me to make the move into Kindle Unlimited to reach those readers who would not read me otherwise. Right. And so I made that business decision. So far, it's going well. I haven't had a ton of readers who only consume me on the other platforms reach out to me and say, I'm really disappointed I can't find your book over there. Because once I say to them, but it's on Amazon and you can read it for free with a Kindle Unlimited subscription, typically they say, oh, okay. It's been really
right. And in full disclosure, you're not necessarily getting any compensation for those people having their Kindle Unlimited subscription. You're just getting compensated solely for the number of pages that they read of your works, exactly. More or less, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So that was a huge shift in, I guess, the pricing / compensation model for your business, I would imagine.
It's been huge. It was really scary too, because like I said, I worked a really long time to market to those other platforms and to find those readers. So to make the shift was scary. It's paying off so far. I'm still really leery of it though. I'm always leery of putting all of my eggs in one basket scares me. And that gives Amazon quite the control. So it's, as a business person, it is a conundrum.
Yeah, I mean, they're really the 10,000-pound gorilla in the space, and it's hard not to, work with them in the way they want to work with you, because otherwise you have to figure out a way to build that whole following on your own and do all the things that Amazon's doing for you behind the scenes without them, which they know is a challenge. That's why they can do what they can do.
Yeah, exactly.
So in 2025, you're going to host Books by the Lake in your hometown of Whitefish, Montana. What inspired you to now kind of branch off and host this type of event?
I've hosted before, but never in Montana. Really, so many people have said to me, my friends, writer friends, and reader friends too, I would love to come to Montana. I'd love to come see where you live, because it really is very beautiful up here. And finally I said, well, then I'm just going to host an event and everybody can come. It's like having 500 of my closest friends come for a party. So that's why I did it. I'm really excited. I hope you and Denise will come.
I'm sure it's on our short list once we figure out what our schedule is for 2025, because I, like your readers, I am very interested in seeing Whitefish, Montana.
What?
So it's definitely one of those places that is on our list. So I am sure if we can make it happen, we will certainly be there. Now, for readers who may not be, knowledgeable or have gone to events like this, what can they expect?
Well, our event is going to be smaller than, say, Book Bonanza that happens each year in Dallas. My event will only have about 30 authors, and we're looking at between 400 and 500 readers. So it's a small, intimate event. What will happen is they'll arrive, and Friday night there will be a welcome party, and then Saturday is the signing. It's an all-day signing event, so all 30 authors, and then we'll have some narrators there and some other vendors as well to sell like T-shirts and mugs and all the things, all the bookish things.
Right.
It'll be an all-day thing, and then they will get to go see their favorite authors and have things signed and photos and all of that good stuff. And then that evening there will be another party because, hello, we're going to party.
Sure.
Yeah, it's going to be very simple. I'm not doing a lot of panels and things like that at this one. It's quite simple and small. But from what I hear, I think people are ready to get back to smaller signings, and I'm excited for it. There is no place in Whitefish, Montana that can hold 1,300 people. There's just, we don't have an event space like that here. So we'll be small.
Hey, listen, small doesn't mean bad. Small means great to me. I mean, if you have the right people and the right authors and the right people showing up, it sounds like a great event, and the location, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better one. So
Yeah.
it sounds like it's going to probably be better than some even those larger events, because larger does not mean better. So
Like to
sounds fantastic. So, well, speaking of book signings, your husband John proposed to you at a signing.
He did. Yeah.
So, how has having a supportive spouse impacted your journey as a business owner and author? And I'll dovetail that with you with the other question, which is, what advice would you give to others on fostering a supportive partnership while navigating the demands of entrepreneurship? Because, as you know, or maybe not, but our listeners know, Denise and I work very closely together. She's part of our business. She's our director of marketing. And sometimes that's a challenge, right? And I'd like to hear your perspective.
It can be a challenge. I couldn't do what I do without John, to be honest. He is so supportive. He gets excited with me about what we do in our business. He actually formats all of my books to get them ready for publication. He travels with me to every event, and he is my assistant there. And I actually went to Paris earlier this year for a book event, and he wasn't able to go with me. And they assigned a lovely volunteer to help me at the table. But the whole time I was like, where's John? Because we just have such a great rapport and routine with each other. So I have been in a relationship previously that he was not supportive of my job, and he was quite actually jealous and quite mean about my success. And it ruined we divorced. So because I wasn't willing to give up my company, and he didn't like it. And so when I met John, I explained to him, this is what I do, and I'm not changing it. This is who I am. And he was very excited about it. So, having that person who understands, your job and understands the pressures that it puts on you, is really important. It doesn't mean that you have to work together in the same office, but I think that's part of love. Like, I think that's also what I write about. I'm just rambling now a little bit, but I write about the connection between people, and that's part of love. I love you. I love all of you, and I'm here to support you, whether that's working together or not. I think that's really important. because it makes you feel validated as a human. So
Yeah. And
if you're an entrepreneur and you have a spouse, I just recommend being very communicative, opening the lines of communication and talking about this is what I need or don't need. And making sure that you're on the same page as far as your expectations financially, time wise, because owning your own company is so demanding of your time that I think you can really lose balance. So communication is the key. Absolutely. Just make sure that everybody is okay.
great points. And I appreciate that. And I take that to heart too, because I go through it every day. And, I'm really sorry for the first experience, but happy for you at the same time that you found John and his supportive nature. Because listen, if you want to be successful, I think that, it takes a team approach. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without Denise. Denise wouldn't be able to do what she does without me. So there is that partnership. And, it sounds like you finally found that with John, which is fantastic. And it brings on other challenges, but at the same time, I feel it could be also far more rewarding because you're on the same page, you have similar schedules, so there are a lot of positives to it as well. And it seems like you've been able to find and navigate those for the two of you as well, which is great.
Thanks.
So this one comes from your Facebook reader group, Proby's Peeps. And this is a Denise question. She asked me to put this in here because Denise asked them what you would like to ask, what they would like me to ask, and they want to know about your handbag collection, which I know nothing about, but your readers want to know about. So I guess I will know about after this.
Okay. What was there something specific they wanted to know, or they just want me to talk about my handbag collection?
No, I guess there's some interest into what is, what's in the handbag collection. Nothing specific, but they want to know about it. It's, I guess it's a little unknown there.
So I really enjoy luxury handbags. I buy Chanel and Louis Vuitton and Fendi and all of the fashion houses. I am quite addicted to handbags. And I know my readership has known that for a long time. I used to give tours of the closet, and then I stopped doing that because I started getting comments that weren't as nice. So I stopped giving those tours. But yeah, I do. And it used to be that whenever I published a book, I would buy myself a new handbag. But that got expensive because I was publishing 6 to 10 books a year. And my husband was like, maybe not every time you publish a book. So we don't do it quite that often anymore. But yeah, I have a really great closet.
So what is your go-to and or most prized handbag? What's the one?
So my most prized, I don't know if I should tell you. My most prized handbag is an Hermes Birkin.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think Denise might be aspiring to your handbag collection. Just saying. But
I will say, first of all, I love Denise. She has been with me for 12 years. That woman has read everything. She is a wonderful human. But also sometimes she will text me and say, look at this bag. And I love that she thinks of me when she buys a new bag or is shopping for a new bag. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're not at the point where we have a closet for the bags yet, but we might be on our way. Let's just say that. So
I don't see a problem with that.
Listen, we talk about it all the time on this show. We're all about joy, and as long as you can plan for it, you can afford it, and it doesn't derail other things you're trying to do. If that's your outlet for finding joy, then hey, it's perfectly okay. Perfectly okay.
Agree. Yeah.
There you go. So listen, on the line of joy, we ask each of our guests the same final question, which is, what did you do today that brought you joy and put you in the right mindset for success?
Sometimes joy is really simple. And for me this morning, it was just having coffee, looking out my window at the mountains it is my favorite part of the day, and it really does get me ready to tackle the rest of what I have to do that day. So it is my favorite way to start the day.
I love that perspective, and I think if I had the mountains you had in your backyard in view, I would probably be doing the same thing, but we don't yet, or at least I should say at this point, we don't. But thank you for sharing that. That's a great perspective. So listen, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. We're going to have all of your information in the show notes, Kristen, but if people want to connect with you, learn more about your writing, what's the easiest and the best place for them to do that?
Probably the easiest is my website, KristenProbyAuthor.com. And they can always reach me on social media as well, on Instagram or Facebook.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and enjoy the day.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
I want to thank Kristen Proby for being a guest on the Mitlin Money Mindset. Being an author is very much like being an entrepreneur, and Kristen continues to expand and evolve. Kristen's entrepreneurial spirit is seen in everything she does, and she has created a fantastic community of authors and readers around her. She continually looks to elevate her profession, adding value to other authors and readers alike. Kristen Proby and all that she is up to can be found across most social media platforms. All the contact information needed to find them can be found in the show notes.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Mitlin Money Mindset. Remember, it's not just about the money, it's finding joy in the journey and embracing the right mindset. If you love the show, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Don't forget to follow along for more tips and inspiration. Please visit the social links below to connect with Larry or his guests. Until next time, keep smiling, keep thriving, and remember to think about, what did you do today that brought you joy?